I feel a little rough today, Jason.
Oh, do ya?
A little rough.
Why?
Well, we had a member in town, and I went out and did my Friday night drinking on Thursday night this week. So
I do not condone that sort of behavior.
You were right there. You got there before I did.
True, but I didn't stay until it shut down because I have responsibilities.
Uh-huh.
And I had to get back. I had to get back to the orphanage.
Okay.
And
wait
for the for the kids.
You have an orphanage, dude. You have all this free labor.
No, I'm stalking an orphanage. Actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's wait. Why?
Because all children need to believe in the boogeyman.
Okay.
Keeps them in line.
So you've taken up the mantle of boogeyman.
Yeah. Well,
You're
working
hiding
on
under
it.
beds,
Working for it.
Yeah.
Trying.
Okay. All right. That works.
There's no application process, but
You're not worried about the boogeyman union getting on you about dues and stuff like
I'm
that.
a boogeyman scab.
Yeah. There you go. Well, welcome everybody to Rage Select. I am Jeff.
I'm Jason.
It's the podcast for the week. We've got news. We've got your questions. And before we do that, though, we have to catch up a little bit. I guess I've seen you like almost every day this week. I don't know that there's any real news.
Yeah,
to
what the
catch
hell
up
are we
on.
going to talk about? We already talked about everything.
You know what we could talk about is we could talk about the I feel like I have a topic, and it's topical and it's pertinent, and it's something that you can air your grievances, just like Festivus.
I'm ready.
All right?
I'm ready.
All right, so last night we went to the bar. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. When we got to the bar was real busy.
Yeah.
Why was it real busy, Jason?
trivia night?
Trivia
It's
night.
Geeks who drink.
Yep. Now, do you condone trivia night?
Yeah, sure. I dig it. I am full of trivial knowledge. I have no practical knowledge in my brain.
Okay.
And so I'm actually pretty decent on the rare occasions that I go play trivia.
Okay.
I'm good to have on your team.
All right.
Not the best, but pretty good.
But last night there was a moment during the trivia
We got shushed.
where I thought Jason was going to turn around and start throwing chairs at people.
Oh, God. I was pissed. See, they were playing these movie clips for one of the rounds. Audio, just audio. And you had to write down what movie it was. And it was very loud. It was very loud.
Well,
but everyone, Jeff and I were talking to Mac, and we were all having a conversation, and people kept going, shh.
Yeah.
Shh.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm in a goddamn bar.
Not only that,
This is
but
the fucking library.
we were outside on the patio. There's like a whole
Yeah.
inside. I'm sorry that your 12-man trivia team doesn't have space to sit inside, but like I'm outside smoking and drinking, and I'm having a conversation with somebody. Like you're playing trivia for what is it, like $100 in bar credit or something like
Right.
that? Which, okay, I'm not gonna say that's not. I'd like $100 in bar credit. That's
Sure.
cool.
Yeah.
But I wasn't there to do that. But yeah, I thought when it first happened, you gave me this look like I'm gonna choke a bitch.
Was it that obvious?
And I was like,
I was ready.
because the thing is that I had my back to these people, and that Jace was standing there, and he could kind of see. So and then he looked over, and I look at him. He's got the choke a bitch expression, and then he's like, and I'm like, I don't think they were shushing us, Jason. And he was like, yes, they were.
They were
totally
shushing us.
They were shushing us.
I will not be shushed.
Not only that, but one of my exes was there.
Yeah.
She was doing some shushing as
He was
well.
really a nice fella.
Oh, come on, Jason.
Oh, I must have thought you were pointing at somebody else.
Yeah,
I was
that's
like, yeah, that looks like he's in your weight class. You were
No.
Yeah.
Anyway, I don't. There's not
That
really.
was, that was odd.
That was, yeah. I mean, I saw her last time I saw her was like over a year ago.
Yeah.
She's still my friend on Facebook. There's not any. I don't have any like bad feelings towards her.
Yeah.
It's kind of weird seeing her after a while. Never entirely sure what to do.
She seemed nice.
Yeah, yeah.
She had a
She's a
great
scientist.
personality. A scientist?
Yes.
Oh,
She's a
shit.
scientist and a belly dancer.
What kind of scientist?
I would ask her that, and when she started explaining it to me, she would very quickly go from like, I'm lost. I have no idea what you're talking about. It's like I understood this word, and now I'm having to say, okay, stop and explain what you just explain those two words to me. I don't know what they mean. Yeah,
So you don't know.
I don't
Just
really know.
Science.
Yeah, research it at apparently ACC, the Austin Community College here, has like a lab.
Okay.
So, But yeah,
But you don't know for what.
I don't really.
She could be like a poop scientist.
I asked her to build me a rocket pack one time. She said, I'm not that kind of scientist.
Not that kind of. You're like, well, then you're not a real scientist.
What about
And so they broke up.
laser sword? Can you do me a lightsaber?
Can you make something where I can read minds?
That's right.
I can see through clothes.
That's right. Can you make me into a Jedi? That's
Yes.
what I'm asking. Can you inject more midi-chlorians into me?
A T-Rex Jedi. That's what I want to be. A T-Rex Jedi.
Oh
do
my
it.
God.
With your science powers.
How much better would the prequel trilogy have been if, like, Mace Windu was a fucking T-Rex?
Oh, God.
Like,
One of
you
the
know.
greatest movies of all time.
Voiced by Samuel L. Jackson.
Still voiced,
right.
yes.
But he was a T-Rex.
Yeah.
It would have made that fight between him and Palpatine that much more ridiculous.
Yeah, but they got the tiny arms and
Well, maybe he used 1 foot, you know?
Oh, could be.
He's got like a 12-foot
Could
long
be.
lightsaber or something.
the thing with T-Rexes, man, how do they wipe their butts?
I don't think that T-Rexes, I don't think the Tyrannosaurus Rex, the Thunder Lizard, was incredibly concerned with personal hygiene.
But if it was a Jedi, he might be like a hygienic T-Rex Jedi.
He used the Force to move the paper, right?
Using the Force to wipe your ass. There it is. Answered. That should be canon. Put that in Wikipedia.
The Jedi Council kind of frowns on that a little bit. Oh, shit. Wait, so he doesn't have... His arms aren't big enough to wield a lightsaber. What if they took out all of his dinosaur teeth and put lightsabers in instead? Fucking lightsaber teeth.
Damn. That's awesome.
He'd be unstoppable. Grievous would all be jumping around and he'd just be like, oh,
No.
done.
Grievous would be like, does that Jedi have... Is he a T-Rex with lightsaber? Fuck this. I'm out.
I'm joining the good guys.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Sidious. Yeah. I mean, can you imagine like Darth Vader trying to pick up the Jedi Tyrannosaurus and he's just like, this is way heavier than an X-Wing. Fuck. So yeah. So the bar, that was all right. Then we had breakfasts and stuff, and I had to learn how to file taxes today.
Where'd you go to breakfast?
I figured this guy's in town, right?
Yeah.
I took him to the Kirby Lane on Kirby Lane.
Oh, okay.
OG Kirby Lane.
You didn't
even
go
though
to Jim's, that hellhole.
Jim's is the opposite direction from
Yeah.
where the guy was staying. So I mean, I would have gone to Jim's. It's cheap, and once you've had like 9
The
beers,
service is shit.
it's you order eggs and then the eggs come. That's about.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly looking for a refill on my mocha frappuccino at
There's this
Jim's.
one, whenever I go into the gyms, there's this Quasimodo motherfucker who hobbles around. He's got this limp. I don't know why. It's not my problem, but it's
Okay.
like he's taking it out on the world. And he mumbles shit at you, and I'm just like, what are you, fucking Kevin Spacey? And
Is this the wait staff?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's just one dude, and he's got this limp, and he's like, yo, you want a Coke? All right, I'm going to get you a Coke. Hey, your eggs are coming. It's just like...
Are you a pirate waiter, or what are you talking about?
He's just this fucking troll man at the gyms. And
Okay, you
it's
need-
like I require at least politeness, and he's just this mumbling, shuffling troglodyte.
Call you motherfucker all the time, or
No,
Okay.
that would give me an honest to God excuse to tell him off. But right now he's like just mean enough, but just polite enough to where I'm like, if he were any more abrasive,
Yeah.
then I would feel justified in saying, "What is your problem, motherfucker?" But he's just at that threshold where I'm like, maybe that's what he is. Oh, well, he's working at gyms,
Yeah.
so maybe made some bad decisions in life.
All right. So I'm going to say that you need to start going to the gyms that I go to.
Which one do you go to?
The one at 183.
That's the one I go to.
Okay, I've never seen that guy. That gyms that I go to is almost entirely populated by broken down lady waitresses. Like they look like they've been
It
doing
is.
this for like
It
100 million years or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Like they're not elderly, right? They're
Right.
like middle-aged women.
Yeah.
They just look like they've been waiting tables at gyms
They
since
are
they were
clearly
born.
ready to die.
Right.
Yeah.
And Peter, the fungus monkey, keeps trying to tell me, like, we need to hook you up with one of those gyms waitresses.
Yes!
And I'm like,
Oh, I like where his head's at.
is this? I'm not really. I mean, every time these waitresses see me, I'm like blasted out of my mind. Like, I want pork chops and eggs.
Yeah.
Like,
Bring my friend some pork chops and then sit on his face.
yeah. I will tell you though, there was this like 2 or 3 weeks ago. Fungus Monkey and I and Hi and Amanda and John from over Geek Bombast, we all went over to Jim's. And so our table was kind of towards the back, but on the way to our table, we passed this other table, and there were these two just monumentally obese women.
Yeah.
It's like 3 a.m. and
I love making fun of fat people.
They were, I mean, like, okay, I'm not necessarily, that's low-hanging fruit or whatever, but there's a point to this story. So I walk by their table, to get seated, and I look at their table, and they've just got, it looks like 4 people worth of food on the table.
Yeah, of course.
Most of it is fried.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, just think of it, French fries.
It.
Fried.
Go with it.
So I walk off to go to the bathroom, and I'm coming back to the table, and I'm passing by them. I'm passing at just the right time where the waitress is there, and she's refilling their drinks. And the one woman is like, and she's asking what their drinks were. And the one was like, Diet Coke. And I had to do that thing where you just cover your face over. Like,
why?
Yeah, I felt like stopping and being like, "Oh, honey, who are you fooling at this point?"
You passed Diet Coke fucking 400 pounds ago.
Yeah,
sweetheart.
like you need like do they make like triple sugar Coke? Like extra Coke with Coke?
Yeah. How about I just bring you a big glass of liquid sugar?
Like, can I get a Coke with a scoop of chocolate ice cream in the Coca-Cola?
Exactly.
That's what I'm looking for.
Also, a big, like, 44-ounce cup of lard.
Oh, man. Well, speaking of lard, I'm not actually. There's no real segue there.
No segue.
Let's talk about the news. Let's talk about what happened. There was, some news. It's weird. A lot of times I go back through a week worth of news, and there's only news in like the last 2 days.
Sure,
which is fine. So one of the big things that happened in the last week is EA announced that SimCity is getting an offline mode.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yay.
So
too little, too late.
That's
Nobody
what I was
fucking cares.
That's what I was going to ask you. We posted the story on the website, and there were people in the comments. Some people were like, they had their chance, they fucked it up, fuck you, go to hell.
Yeah.
And some people in there were like, well, now that you've made good, I'm going to go back and give this a shot. Now that you've made good on what I feel should have been an integrated feature. Like,
right.
I didn't buy this because it had to always be online. You've now taken that out. Now I feel like I can buy this with a good conscience.
And didn't they say some nonsense like, well, it has to be online because that's the way, blah, blah, blah,
They
blah.
did, yeah. Well, when it first came out, in fact, they even had a second article that came out that was defending that statement when they said, like, well, what that person said was that it would take like a significant amount of programming resources to take out that code and optimize it to not run online. Now, as we all know, within about a week of it being out, a modder totally did that and it ran fine. But this spokesperson for EA was saying like that the last 6 months they've been putting in work to make this a feature to get it offline, so that they did have to put resources into this. But I think the problems with the game went beyond just being online all the time.
There is that.
I mean,
first of all, it's SimCity.
Well,
that's problem number one.
Dude, I was so close when we were looking at SimCity and when we reviewed SimCity. I was so close to getting why people are into SimCity.
Okay.
Except that it's like, because what you want to do in SimCity is you want to set up like the resources that your city needs, like power and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Then you want to focus on like building projects and doing fun stuff.
Yeah.
The problem with this was
then
that
you want to send all of them straight into a living nightmare.
You want to call in Godzilla.
Yes.
And the crime wave at the same time.
And Super AIDS.
And Super AIDS. Well, I don't know if they have Super. It's DLC.
Airborne Super AIDS.
Airborne Super AIDS.
Yeah.
But the game, every time I was starting to have fun with it, they'd be like, well, you're out of water. And I'd be like, well, there's only so much water here. I don't know where I'm supposed to go to get more water.
Yeah.
I mean, because the game wants you to have multiple towns to take care of the services that are going on there. And I just want to build one big old city. I want to build fucking Ragetropolis and make it my thing.
Sounds amazing.
So I don't know. Like, so the question for you, Jason, is: do you think that? I mean, I guess you maybe already answered, but like, do you think that you should give a company a second chance if they try to do a mea culpa and make good on something like that?
If it's cool, sure.
Yeah.
But I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't care about SimCity. I don't care, multiplayer or single player. I just don't care.
Okay.
But if abstractly, if there's a game that is multiplayer only and it's a broken multiplayer and it really needs to be a single player, and then it comes out theoretically and it's good, then sure, I'll play it. SimCity's not that fucking game. I don't care.
Okay.
But theoretically, Yes.
Well, here, what about this hypothetical scenarios? You remember Diablo 3 had to be always online.
Yeah.
Let's say that you didn't buy Diablo 3 because you're like, dude, fuck that. I don't want to have to be online all the time.
Right.
And then 6 months later, they're like, well, you don't have to anymore. We've introduced an offline mode where you can do this. Would that give you an incentive to go back and probably try to revisit it?
Yeah, I would do it.
Okay.
It's like, I'll take advantage of someone else's compromise principles. Sure.
We had an email. I don't know if I put it in the email that we got about EA. EA is a weird beast. They're strange. But
Okay.
Anyway, next story that we have is IO has said that the next Hitman game that they're making is going to go back to the kind of open world sandbox style levels.
Okay.
As opposed to the kind of level style levels that we saw in Hitman Absolution.
Yeah. Which I loved.
Yeah. So,
loved it.
What's your pedigree in Hitman? Did you play the Blood Money or
no? In fact,
or
the
two,
only one that I played all the way through was Absolution.
Okay,
And I played bits and pieces of the others, and I know Absolution was it deviated from the formula that lots of diehard Hitman fans had embraced. But I had a hell of a good time with it. I thought it was great.
So, do you think that this is going to be? Do you think that that this is going to be a good move for them?
I'm looking forward to seeing what it's like.
Yeah,
I'm all for a good sandbox game.
They also said that it looks like they're going back. They're taking the timeline back before the events of Absolution, when
He was still
47 was working for the agency.
Sure.
Diana was his handler.
Okay.
As opposed to all the rescue the child
betrayal
right,
and all that went down.
So I don't know. I could still like. I was never so attached to the Hitman sandbox thing that I liked Absolution as well. I thought it was real fun. And there was still a little bit of that kind of experimentation, like you could kill people in a whole bunch of different ways.
Mm-hmm.
They were just a little bit more set as opposed to having the kind of open world craziness of some of the previous stuff. Like, have you ever seen that video for Blood Money where you're in a neighborhood and there's like a guy in a house where they're having a children's birthday party, like a senator or something you need to assassinate? And the guy like, as 47, like just kicks in the front door and goes into this house, right?
Yeah.
Instantly alerts everybody. So they hit the panic button, and then he's got it timed where he chases the guy out of the house, and as the Secret Service is pulling up, they hit the target with their car and kill him. and then 47 just runs off, and it was like, that's pretty cool.
It sounds like I might need to purchase Blood Money.
Yeah, I'll give you my Steam login.
Yeah.
I think I've already bought it like 4 or 5 times.
Of course you do.
All right, next up, there was a new Dark Souls 2 trailer. Did you watch it?
I didn't.
Okay.
I intended to, but I did not.
I'm going to put it on here while I talk about it.
Okay.
People have asked me, or when we put the trailer up on the website.
Is that a mummy with nunchucks?
I don't know if there were nunchucks, but it was definitely some kind of mummy. People have been asking me, like, oh, Jeff must be really excited.
Sure.
I am still kind of
nervous.
I'm very nervous. I'm very nervous about Dark Souls 2 because it's not being made by the same guy it's not being directed by the same guy that did Demon Souls and Dark Souls. And like I said when we were back at E3, like when I played it at E3, there were like these one-use healing items and like magic generation or magic regenerative items that you could pick up in the world. And when I asked the guy about it, I was like, I don't know if I like having these healing items as opposed to just a straight Estus flask. And he was like, oh, you're going to need these. This game is super hard. And I feel like I'm kind of repeating myself here, but I feel like there's been a lot of focus in a lot of places on how, on Dark Souls specifically, as like, you guys like this shit because it's real hard, right? And that's not why I'm into Dark Souls.
Yeah, you don't want it to be like, as Max said last night, Ninja Gaiden 2.
Right, exactly. It's not like the difficulty has always come from kind of an exploration, figuring out how the game works as opposed to just brutal difficulty level.
Right.
So I'm not like, hey, you know what? I learned my lesson with fucking Zelda: A Link Between Worlds. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say like it's going to be garbage. I mean, I'm going to play it. I'm looking forward to it.
Still looks like it has great monster design.
Yeah, some of the monster design looks interesting.
That's the Balrog.
One guy here, he kind of looks like
the Balrog,
Flame Lurker in Demon Souls.
The Balrog.
Also the Balrog a little bit, Jason. God damn it. Yes. There's little spiders on the screen. Gross. They get some.
Oh, shit. Those people are having a bad time.
Yeah. So I don't know. Like the new Dark Souls 2 trailer comes out. It's out in March, so we're actually getting close. You know,
we're watching the video and commenting on it as though everyone else is watching it right now, as though this were a video cast.
Yeah, I realized that I was doing that and then tried to stop immediately. So I don't know. Like I'm also curious to know where the story fits in the Dark Souls canon.
Yeah,
because Dark Souls was in some ways a remake of Demon Souls.
Yeah. So are you going to play it?
No, I think I'll skip it, Jason. I don't think. I think we'll just give this one a pass and we'll go on to the next thing. I mean, it's a gorgeous trailer. It looks really good.
Yeah, it's really. The graphics are greatly improved from Dark Souls.
I'm just a little bit worried about.
It's like your girlfriend called and said, "I cut my hair. I'll be home in half an hour."
Well, what I was saying to you last night was it's like if you have a series that was created by an auteur, right? Somebody with a specific vision.
Yeah.
And then they do the sequel and it's just as good. It's same auteur, same vision.
Yep.
And then it would be like, what if they made The Royal Tenenbaums 2 and it was being directed by somebody besides Wes Anderson?
Yeah, that would be weird.
And you'd be like, I don't know about this,
They're
man.
not going to pull it off.
Like, maybe it'll be all right.
Sure.
So, I don't know.
But probably not.
Who can say? Next up on the list, we got news, which is really cool, that No Man's Sky is not going to be delayed by the flooding that happened.
We were talking about that last night. This game sounds cool.
Yeah, procedurally generated universe, literally, where you start on the outskirts of the universe, and then I think, it looks like there's some combat in the trailer, but it looks like it's mostly going to be kind of in that new vein of exploration, build tech kind of stuff.
Sure.
Like I was listening to some guys who did an interview with the folks over at Hello Games, and they said that they envisioned a scenario where like you could be taking your ship down to a planet and your ship could end up crashing, and then it's like you have to spend time on this planet trying to get enough resources together to either fix or build a new ship to get off the planet again.
See, if that's the case, if you're like crashing on a planet, there needs to be hostile inhabitants in this planet.
Well, there's a couple of really brief like moments in the trailer that they put out where you can see like shooting at like wildlife coming at you. So I'm not sure if it's going to be player versus player or if it's going to be player versus environment.
Yeah.
There did seem to be in some of the space stuff. It was kind of hard to see ships shooting at other ships. And I haven't read very much about this yet because the trailer was so fascinating. I kind of just want to wait till it comes out and then get it all on when it comes out. But it's good to hear that these guys, they said they cobbled together like 4 workstations and they had enough of their stuff backed up that it shouldn't impact.
Because a lot of their stuff was destroyed in a flood in their office. Where are they located?
That is a good question. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
I don't know.
Just
it doesn't say in this game or in this article that I pulled this from. Yeah, it turns out that their insurance wasn't going to cover it.
Yeah, that's often the case with flooding. A lot of people don't have flood insurance because it never, ever floods until it does, and you're boned.
Yeah.
As happened here in Austin on Halloween.
Oh, yeah. Yes, indeed. Yeah, I've never been through a flood. Never did a flood, like had flood damage in my house before. Never seen it happen.
Yeah, me neither. It almost, the flood during Halloween here almost came up into my back door.
Really?
Yeah. Allison woke me up. She's like, "Baby, you got to check this." And I get up and I look at the water and I'm like, "Yeah, it's probably going to be fine. I'm going back to bed." And I was right.
There you go.
Yeah. I just want to tell her next time, wake me up when you are dog paddling in the living room.
If there was a flood, what would be the first thing that you would get? What was the thing that you would save first?
Hard drives.
Hard drives?
Hard drives.
Start tearing hard drives out of computers and games consoles and stuff, throw them in a bag?
Oh, no. I mean, like my external hard drives.
Oh, like they have writing and stuff on them?
Yeah, writing and video footage and stuff like that. And also, okay, first thing, dogs.
Oh, yeah,
Make sure the dogs are fine.
Yeah. Dogs can swim, though. They'll be all right.
Yeah, that's true. You know. My dogs hate water. But yeah, dogs, hard drives, and then it's going to be getting the comics off the ground. Which
it's going to be like Sophie's Choice, like which box you pick up.
Man. Yeah, because I've got like 20-something long boxes, and I'm just like, maybe 30. I don't even know.
Good Lord,
They
man.
just keep popping up, and I'm like, oh, shit, I forgot I had all of these.
Well, you keep buying comics, right?
I do. God, I spent I think this week I spent like $100 on comics, and that was stupid. Yeah,
well,
that was
just
dumb and reckless.
Hey, that's your hobby. I can't talk because I spend so much money on games. It's not even
I
funny.
buy things that I never use.
That's right. That's right. You know what? I woke up today and there was an email in my inbox that was like, guess what, Jeff? All of the Quest games are on sale on GOG for
what?
Like $4 for 3 games. So Space Quest 1, 2, 3, $4.
Did
King's
you
Quest,
get them
1,
all?
2, 3, $4. Police Quest. I look at them and I'm like, yeah, they're only $4, but there were so many of those games that by the time I get done, I'm going to end up spending like $40 on this stuff.
Worth it.
And I don't have time to play.
Oh, I might have to do that. Are they still on sale?
Oh yeah, I'm
Okay.
pretty sure.
I might have to do that. I don't have any of those, and if they're, I've got like I've still got like 5 1/4-inch floppies of like King's Quest 3.
Yeah, where are you even going to use those?
I know.
You don't have a
right
floppy drive.
Yeah, I still have DuckTales on 3.5-inch drive.
What?
It's like, yeah, I still have Police Quest 1 on 5 1/4-inch.
Fuck, man. Well, yeah, there's a big sale. I mean, Good Old Games, they have sales all the time. Yeah, I was kind of wondering, for those of you at home, Jason pulled the pop tab off of his beer can, put it into the beer can, and
It was an
took
accident.
Took
It was
a
an
big
accident.
sip, and I was just like, what are you doing?
I fished it out. I got it. I don't think I swallowed any metal. We're good.
All right. Our last thing in news is the Steam controller has ditched the touchscreen
Good.
on the front of it for traditional buttons. Now, as you can see, the 2 touch pads are still there.
The
on
haptic
left and
feedback
right.
things. Yeah.
But they've got now 2 sets of 4 buttons below those pads that you can use for traditional button presses.
Cool.
Which I think is good because it means that you can put one thumb here and then one thumb on buttons, or you can even I guess you could even configure it with like WASD buttons and then have the right haptic side be like the mouse, right?
Sure.
So it's like kind of like your hands on the keyboard, but with your thumbs.
That doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Wouldn't
That
make any
sounds
sense.
really. This is why you're not designing this thing.
Okay. I'm still really interested in getting my hands on this thing before I talk about
As am I.
condemn it.
Question:
Uh-huh.
Is the Steam Box going to be able to accommodate a keyboard and mouse?
I think so.
Okay, good.
It would be.
That's good.
It would probably be stupid of them not to.
I concur.
From what I've heard, I really need to dig into that more and find like what games are going to be available on Steam OS. I mean, apparently you can get Steam OS right now. It's just it doesn't support dual booting. So, and I'm not. I'm not doing that. Like, does it support Adobe Premiere? No. Well, then I can't use it.
Yeah.
So. Well, that's pretty much all I got for news. Like I
Okay,
said,
see you guys later.
no, wait.
No?
Hold your horses.
No?
Not entirely done yet. We
All
have
right.
a whole ton of emails. But before we go into the emails, you want to take a quick break?
Sure.
Okay. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we're going to have emails. If you want to send us a question, mail@rageselect.com is the email address. It's mail@rageselect.com. I will repeat that again at the end of the show. But yeah, we're gonna go. I'm going to put more caffeine in my brain.
I'm going to put more beer in my brain.
All right, we'll be right back. I got first world problems today, Jason. I went to Starbucks to get my coffee.
Yeah.
You see this shit? Looks like a vanilla.
It does.
They put fucking cream in my coffee instead
Animals.
of milk, like a bunch of savages. Iced coffee with cream. What is that? You know, I was at the drive-thru for Starbucks, and you know how they'll have like, oh, it's wintertime. Here's our pumpkin spice frappuccino or whatever.
Yeah.
So now they're like, it's all candy. Like they have their little. It's caramel, right? It's little caramel squares with nuts. They get the caramel pops, and then they've got chocolate muffins with caramel injected into the middle of them in a big goopy mess. And I don't really know how you feel about like desserts and sweets and stuff, but
I do like my cinnamon rolls.
like, would that be the sort of thing that you would get on the way to work in the morning at like 9 a.m. like a chocolate muffin, like with?
Well, I don't like chocolate, so I know weird.
Yeah, well, I don't.
But like, dude, Cinnabon, I will tear some Cinnabon up.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you? Has it been the same since? Have you heard the Louis C.K. bit about Cinnabon?
Oh, I don't. Yeah,
We talked.
I'm like, you're right, dude. It's disgusting. Give me another one. I'm gonna rub it all over my face.
I don't know. I guess I go through Starbucks and you can hear the person in front of you ordering, and they want like coffee, but then they're adding just like a ton of sugar and chocolate and shit like that to it. And I don't know. I just don't. I don't like sweets as much as I used to.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I usually gorge myself on like the main meal first, so I never make it to dessert.
Well, it's always a question to me of like, would you like a piece of cheesecake, or would you rather have more meat with cheese on it? More meat with cheese on it. That's what I'm looking for. All right, well, folks, we're getting into the emails now. We got a fair amount of emails today, and our first one comes in from our good pal Jordan Reuter. Says, hello, gentlemen and ladies of Rage Select and Sparkle Fandango. Jordan Reuter here, Patreon and fan since the old days. Had a question, and we've had this one before, but I feel like it's something that we should do every so often.
Okay.
What advice could you offer for someone who is dabbling into podcasting and Let's Play videos? And I'm trying to do reviews as well, be they movies and video games, but I'm on a limited budget. Thank you, sirs and ladies. Marsden!
Don't you dare. That's my advice. Gonna compete with us?
I love this. It's like what I'm imagining is that, we get to a point where they hire you to come to some college or whatever. Like Kevin Smith goes and he does his talks and stuff, and the first person comes up and they're like, I kind of want to do what you're doing.
No.
What would you suggest? And that for the next 2 hours, you just lay into that person and you're like, I will come to your house.
Yep.
I will kill your parents.
We will use our Rage Select coffers to have you taken the fuck out.
You mean that crumpled up 20 that I keep next to the PS4?
That's the one.
We're going to pay, like, what, Fungus Monkey? I mean...
I'm thinking we send a scary hobo to Jordan's house with a broken bottle and his dong hanging out, and he's, like, stroking his wiener going, heard you were thinking about getting into podcasting, Jordan.
That's pretty terrifying. That's a pretty terrifying mental image you've just ginned up there.
So, fuck you, Jordan. Don't do it. But if you still want to proceed... Jeff?
I think that the first thing, I actually, there's a friend of mine who wanted to run a horror podcast that I sat down one day and
just talking about all the various horrors.
Yes, it's reviewing horrors around town.
That's a thing.
Yeah,
already.
No, I think that what I would say, and this is just from my own personal experience, rule number one is you need somebody else.
Yes.
Don't try to do it by yourself.
No.
Even Let's Plays, like you watch somebody do a Let's Play all by themselves. Fuck, man, even the live streams I've done by myself. Like, unless you've got kind of like a script and you know exactly what you're going to say, you just get into a lot of dead air there. And it's lovely to have somebody that's able to jump in. And
it depends on what type of Let's Play.
Exactly, yeah. Whether it's instructional or screaming about your dick for hours on end.
Yes. That's my favorite.
A lot of experience in the latter. But I'd say the first thing that you want is you want somebody else there, at least one other person. Mm-hmm. I'd say if you're starting out, probably no more than 3.
Sure.
Just to get the rhythm of it.
Right. Because, people start to talk over each other and stuff like that if you're not careful. And if you have a large group, it takes a while to get that rapport down to where they don't talk over each other.
Exactly. I would also suggest, at least at first, don't. I know that it's tempting a lot of times to get people, but doing podcasts over Skype is something that takes a while to get.
Yeah.
So if you're starting out, you've never done it before, I'd probably recommend do it in person because you can look at each other, you can tell when somebody's going to stop talking, you can kind of give cues back and forth to each other so that you're not just sitting with a lot of dead air. Also, you need something to talk about.
Yes.
Make sure that you've got something that you could talk about forever, essentially.
And be regular. Mm-hmm. If you post your podcast every Monday, make sure it goes up every Monday.
Exactly. I'm the last couple podcasts have been late on Rage Select.
What?
But I mean, it's
do as we say, not as we do.
Don't edit it to death, right? At a certain point, Kevin was the one who gave me the advice when we were first starting to do Let's Plays, where I was like, well, I don't know if this is good enough, blah, blah. And he's like, just put it up. Just put it up. Just keep putting it up. Sometimes you're going to have things that are better. Some days it's not going to be as good. But if you just put it up every day, you're going to get better at it.
Yes.
That's anything. Writing, drawing,
yes.
Movie making. If you're doing it all the time, you're going to get better at it.
Practice.
Also, I'd say that when you first start out, don't invest a lot of money in equipment.
Right.
We
were using Rock Band mics for a long time.
Yeah. Yeah, our early Let's Plays was one Rock Band mic between the two of us.
Yeah.
That was a little awkward. We didn't have any room to spread out. But
we may have ended up making out on accident a couple of times.
Shh, we're not supposed to talk about that.
That's for the patrons.
Okay. We're going to cut this out.
That video.
One, like 2-second blank part, and there's just a note that says, like, I email that file to the patrons.
Yeah.
And I go, all right, at time index, 56, just plug this in real fast.
No, I meant the footage of us making out.
Yeah, so start, get somebody that you can talk with. Start small. Another thing that I learned way later as far as audio goes is try to make sure that all of your audio is correctly, that your levels are all correct and everything. You want to make sure that you get it as good as it can be before you start recording, because I swear to God, as much as audio has progressed with various different things, if you end up with fucked up trash audio, like we've happened in a few things where you peek out the mics and stuff like that, there ain't no fixing it.
Right.
Or if it's too low and you've got a lot of background noise in there, it's very difficult to fix that. As far as Let's Plays go, I mean, another thing is just you got to just do it. Go get yourself a $150 Elgato box and a mic and do it.
Find what you bring to the Let's Plays and focus on that. Is it inane comments? Is it instructional? What is it? And then, focus on that and just keep making yourself better.
Yeah. Also, I can say that there's one time, at least back, I had that Dark Souls thing that I did a long time ago.
Yeah.
And with that, I played through that section of Dark Souls like 6 times to know exactly what was going on. And then I made a rough outline of everything I wanted to talk about. And then I actually one time played through it and kind of did like a dress rehearsal, essentially, where I was talking to nobody and not recording.
Yeah, you don't have to be a crazy person like Jeff.
You don't have to, but it helps.
Some people it helps. Other people, the people who are doing it with you, might think that you're fucking nuts.
It's a good balance to have one person that's insane in one way and one person that's insane in another way.
All right, fair enough.
I need to put 12 more hours into this, and Jason's like, fuck it, put it up now. And so I end up putting like 6 more hours into it, and it's fine. All right, our next question is coming in from Joe, and Joe says, hey guys, this is Joe, a.k.a. Bronco22 on the site.
Hello.
Oh, here's that question. I have a question for you in regards to EA. It seems like the last 3 years, one of the biggest publishers in the world has been besieged by controversy, rushed products, and growing distrust from the consumer. My question is simply this. If given the chance, what sweeping changes would you make to Electronic Arts to fix them? Can EA right their ship at this stage, or have they done too much damage to regain gamer trust? Anyway, keep on raging, Joe.
They have not done too much damage. I think there's always, especially for a monolith like EA, there's always a chance for them to course correct. Mm-hmm. They just need to really focus on what the gamers want. I guess it depends on the property, really, because sometimes you just focus on what the general public wants.
Right.
But I just really think that you get a lot of goodwill by being customer friendly. Mm-hmm. And there have been some policies by a lot of the major publishers that are not at all customer friendly.
Sure.
EA is definitely guilty of that. Like with always online, and then they try to sell you some sort of bullshit reason for it.
Yeah,
and it just smacks of dishonesty and greed. Mm-hmm. Be upfront with your customers. Stop trying to spin it because they can see through that, and just focus on what's best for the customer, and you can do that without betraying the bottom line of the company. Mm-hmm. In fact, I think it'll benefit you even more, because companies that engender goodwill with the customer, that gets out, because now everyone has a platform to let everyone else know.
Yeah, true. If I was in charge, I would probably. I've always looked at EA as being maybe too ambitious sometimes of the number of properties that they're doing at one time.
Oh, sure.
Like if I was EA, I'd probably find like what are our top 6 like best-selling properties, and we're going to retask. And and the thing is that I can't tell, because it's so hard to get things like I don't know how profitable Battlefield 4 was, right? Because you can sometimes get sales numbers, but they're usually an estimate. Yeah. But it's hard to ever get a real answer as far as like how much did this cost to make.
Yeah, and there's a lot of enmity It's built up over Battlefield 4.
Oh, yeah.
And its bugginess.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the same is true from, was it an NBA 2K14 where they had this, I don't really know, I've just seen some stuff online about they had some kind of wonky mechanics for dribbling or something like that, where they were actually doing Twitch streams to teach players how to play the game correctly, because they're like, well, you guys just are not entirely understanding what we're doing here. You know, and then they had SimCity with the always online. I don't know. I think that when you look at some of the most successful places out there, like, you know, like Rockstar with like GTA 5, right? Rockstar, like GTA 5, the single player was not no microtransactions,
right?
No DLC held back, no day one DLC.
Yeah.
Okay, the multiplayer kind of a mess, but
yeah, it's putting it lightly.
I'm not gonna. I like some people hold that against the entire product. I don't really. Like, I wouldn't judge Red Dead. Like, I never played much of the multiplayer for Red Dead, but I wouldn't say that if the Red Dead multiplayer wasn't exceptional, that Red Dead itself was worse off for it. But, like, if you look at companies like that, or companies like companies that just put out popular games that are not riddled with microtransactions, that are not holding back day one DLC, that are not doing these things, you can see that if you just go out and make a really good game, people will buy it.
Yes.
You don't, and I feel like a lot of the stuff that we see with microtransactions, transactions and DLC, those are companies that are trying to, like the product they have, they feel like it's not going to be successful enough on its own, so they've got these little tricks to try to do stuff.
Sure.
And I don't really, I mean, okay, you guys in the comments, this one is open to you guys. I've never heard anybody in my life be like, you know what I really love? Day one DLC. I'm really happy that day one DLC is a thing now.
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who's cool with that.
No.
I don't know anybody who's really super interested in pay to win. You know, like where you buy a game and the day one you can go buy the $5 pack that gives you a World Destroyer gun.
Right.
Or, you know, free-to-play games where they want you to dump $30 to $50 worth of additional transactions in.
Well, that free-to-play is a little bit different than having a full game that you buy,
right,
and then having microtransactions. Free-to-play,
well, it depends.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on how it's implemented, because it's been very successful for some properties, and if it's successful, then, you know, obviously there are people backing that. There are people that are into that.
Sure, I guess it's just like what was the one, like Field Runners 2? I think I had heard stories about how like the difficulty had been amped up so hard that it was nearly impossible to beat later levels without engaging in the microtransactions.
Wow.
For like one-time use power-up type of stuff. I could be totally wrong. I just heard this on a podcast one time.
You know what I would do?
What's that?
If I were playing a game and I got to the end and it was so hard that I couldn't get through it without buying and doing a microtransaction, I would stop playing that game. I'd be like, well, I'm done.
Yeah.
I'm done. That's
so I think that when you look at the successes of indie stuff out there like Brothers or Gone Home, or, you know, the smaller stuff that came out last year, you can see that if you build a quality product, people will buy it. So stop trying to cut a corner and then replace that corner with DLC.
Yeah.
Just make the whole game, sell it for $60, and if it's a good game, you're going to sell a shit ton.
Goodwill goes a long way.
We got the MPE numbers. GTA 5 was like the top-selling game of last year. It outsold Call of Duty, and it outsold Madden.
Yeah.
Those are giants in the industry, and it didn't have microtransactions, blah, 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 blah. It didn't have any of that stuff. It was just a solid-ass video game. And they managed to put together something that got people excited, and they did it. So if I was EA, I'd probably scale back to like a half dozen solid properties and just make them into the most solid games possible. And then if I was EA, I'd use some of that money to basically just go out and start finding. I would go to the guys that made Brothers and be like, whatever you want to make your next game, we're going to invest in that.
Right.
We want to publish your next
Rather
game.
than churning out,
right,
here's the next version of this.
Yeah.
For this year, you know, which is funny because I bet Take-Two publishes GTA, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet that Rockstar has been leaned on to say, okay, well, what are you going to release in 2014? How about another Grand Theft Auto? You know?
Well, I would be willing to bet that I'd be willing to bet, is it Take-Two? I don't know. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. Anyway.
I'd be willing to bet that there's probably going to be DLC, like Lost and Damned and that sort of thing.
Which is fine.
Which would be fine. But yeah, for me, I just feel... But the other thing about EA is that when you... like, EA is kind of like Capcom, where it's like they engender bad feelings amongst people who are vocal on the internet. I don't think it's really affecting their bottom line all that much.
See, that's the thing, is that we're coming at it from a perspective of gamers.
Yeah.
And the public at large, the people that pay most of the bills, they're just people who want the new Madden.
Right.
Or they don't know who publishes stuff. They see the publisher come up, and it's immediately out of their brain once it's done. They don't know the difference between... developers, a lot of people don't know that, okay, Infinity Ward is not really Infinity Ward anymore. It's a bunch of other people who are just using that moniker, and then Treyarch does every other game on Call of Duty.
Yep.
Most people don't know that, so it doesn't really matter. Most people don't look at a movie, for instance, and look at the studio and go, oh, that's going to be a good one. A lot of people, the public at large, don't even look at the director.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
They watch the trailer, and that's it.
And
so a lot of this is maybe EA doesn't need to worry about it.
Yeah, I think that's very true. I think that outside of them making if the next Madden game was catastrophically fucked up, and I mean like you couldn't play it fucked up, like so fucked up, then they may see a hit next year in the sales of the next Madden or whatever. But it's hard to lose a lot of the people who, I wouldn't call them casual gamers, but just like people who are not all into the industry's ass like you and I and a lot of our listeners and people. Like those people, it's going to be hard to dissuade them from that sort of thing.
Right.
Like I see a lot of people who are upset about Battlefield 4, but those are gamers. They're not like... Yeah. There's plenty of people who just play Battlefield 4 and it crashes and they're like, well, shit, all right. The other thing I was just thinking was that if, just like movies, if the video game industry had a way, the video game industry is a weird one because it's one of the few places where you buy a thing and you cannot return it. So, like, if Battlefield 4 sold X million copies, and then when everybody brought home and found it was broken, and then they all went back to the store and got their fucking money back, that would be a problem.
Yeah.
But you can't really do that, Right. I mean, Origin has that 24-hour refund thing, but Steam doesn't have refunds, and fucking Best Buy won't take a game back. You can't just go, this is crap, give me my money back, and they'll be like, you opened it.
Yeah.
Fuck off.
You're done. Yeah, that's
you
it.
go to GameStop, and they'll give you, like, $12 for it, for the $60 game you just got done buying. So unless something...
Won't even give you a reach around.
Yeah. Unless something in that way changes, and as long as we're seeing an influx of people who are more...
savvy.
Yeah. Well, no, who are... I think there's a general influx of the general public at large, people who look at the trailers, people who don't know directors or writers or any of that kind of stuff. As long as those people are buying these things based on the trailers, EA probably has nothing to worry about.
Right.
The same way that, I mean, at this point, Capcom should essentially be out of business if, like, gamer ire was a thing that would really affect them.
Right.
All right. Our next question comes in from Oni Slaughter or Oni's Laughter. I don't know.
One of those. Hello, Oni's Laughter.
Yeah, and they say, hey, guys, this will be my first raging email, so here goes.
Yeah!
Call of Duty, Battlefield, and Killzone. These are the games that are starting to grow stale with every sequel to come out since their debut, especially with their single-player campaign. Never mind the ridiculous story and repetitive gameplay, the characters seem to be getting worse and worse with every release. So if someone would ask me, what would you do different to breathe new life into these franchises? Well, I would simply say, try making the main protagonist a villain. Here's an example. The next Killzone game puts you in the role of a Hellgas soldier, seeing the game through their eyes, where you start villainous and slowly become an anti-hero who fights for the right cause. That's as close as playing a Nazi as you can get. A space Nazi, but a Nazi nonetheless. What do you guys think? Thanks for answering my question. If it gets to you, been a big fan of you guys since the days behind the bar. And then he says, P.S. If you're looking for some new games for your Indie Fridays, may I suggest the Banner Saga, which was released recently on Steam. We got you covered, man.
Yep.
We got you covered, Oni's Laughter, Oni Slaughter, whichever one it is. I don't know. What do you think? I can definitely see the Call of Duty Ghosts.
Yeah.
Battlefield 4, Killzone Shadowfall, there were quite a few FPSs this year where the characters in the single-player campaign were very just
completely forgettable. Yeah, and that's I don't know. They're under a lot of pressure because the publisher is making them crank this stuff out every year, and plus there's just the scenarios when you're doing modern combat. There's only so many. Okay, well the Russians are invading or whatever.
Right.
There's only so many permutations of that Tom Clancy claptrap that you can do.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe make it smaller. Maybe make it more personal. But then again, that might put people off who just want big warfare. I'd actually like to see them really put as much effort into the single player as they do in the multiplayer, and make these campaigns more than 6 hours long. You know, give me a good 12-hour Call of Duty campaign where you could really affect the outcome.
You don't think that? Well, kind of. You know what?
Was it Black Ops?
It's Black Ops 2, right, that did that.
Mm-hmm.
God, and I was so excited for this year's Call of Duty because of that stuff.
And they just ditched it.
And they just, two different developers once again.
Right, right.
But, see, the thing is that my gold standard for first-person shooter campaigns is still Modern Warfare.
Right.
Call of Duty 4. And I think that was a short campaign. That was like 4 or 5 hours at most. But it was so packed. It was like controlling a Hollywood blockbuster.
Yes.
But they skated the line between realistic and over the top really well. And I feel like in the later Modern Warfares they went too far over the bombastic line to just crazy insanity.
Right. Yeah, I think they've gone so far that they need to maybe scale it back, make it more personable, make it where you can relate to the characters a bit more, and it doesn't have to be a huge conflict. I think they need to really focus more on storytelling more than spectacle, because they've really pushed the spectacle like to the nth degree.
I think that for my money, the problem is environment. That you remember when Call of Duty, when Modern Warfare 2 came out, right?
Yeah.
And it seemed like almost every military game that came out that year and like the year after had a favela level.
Right.
There was a favela level. Like every one of them
Max
was in
Payne.
Rio. Right, yeah. There were all these favela levels coming out. And I feel like a lot of times, because when Modern Warfare came out, almost every game had like their Middle East section, right? Where there was, you're driving through an analog of the Middle East, with some kind of conflict going on. There for a while, you were seeing a Russian level in just about every game.
Yes.
And I feel like part of that is because there's only so many environments. There's only so many times you can see the same environment.
Right.
Like the first time you see the favelas, you're like, oh, this is interesting, right? This is like Bad Boys 2, where they're going through the favelas.
Yeah.
Except without the Humvee. But by the third time you've seen that, it's gone from wow to snore.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's a thing in video games, and more so than that, you see it in movies and just general storytelling, where the first time that you see something new, there's a wow moment to that. The next time, it's okay, and then by like the third time, we're all bored of it because we've got 2-second attention spans these days.
Yeah.
Like, favelas again, I've already done this.
It's stop, and back to my original point, stop trying to go bigger.
Yeah.
Because that's a losing proposition. You can only do that for so long. I mean, in the last Call of Duty, you had people fighting in space.
Yeah.
Which was a cool scenario, but it's just like you can't maintain that.
Right.
You got to reel it back in and have some small quiet moments so that the bigger moments mean more.
I think that they've got the gameplay down, and they just need to be focusing more on the story.
Yep. Yeah.
Like the story, in Black Ops 2, I found the story compelling with the guy, the guy who'd been screwed over and he was taking his revenge, and all this stuff was going like that was an interesting. You had a clear bad guy. The bad guy in Ghosts was garbage.
Yeah.
I felt he was just like he was terrible. Like they South American drugs and they turned him into a bad guy. I'm like, okay, well, first of all, but whatever. But yeah, it's if you build the game around a story, I feel like you're always going to get a better result than if you build the gameplay and then try to manhandle a story into it that fits the gameplay. Like, well, we've got this level in a flooded out area.
Oh, right.
You know,
Yeah.
like I feel like you need a very clear vision about where your story is going to go, and then you make the game service the story and not
Yes.
the other way around.
Right.
So yeah, that's it. Oni's laughter, Oni slaughter. I still want to know. All right, next one up here is from Spiderbite. And Spiderbite says, "Hey there, when you began the gloriousness that is Sequential Saturday for Bulletstorm, you mentioned that you considered the game highly underrated. Are there any other games you thought were great but just slipped under the radar or otherwise didn't get the attention they deserved? Sincerely, Spiderbite." P.S. When making recommendations for Westerns in the last podcast, how could you not mention Rango? I like Rango. Rango was all right.
Yeah, Rango was cool. I liked it. Underrated games. The cream usually rises to the top, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of something. I mean, Bulletstorm is just the big standout, and I can't really think of one.
I mean, you got games that didn't sell very well, you know, stuff like Beyond Good and Evil that was like a critical darling. And,
yeah.
Or Psychonauts that was a critical darling but didn't sell very well.
I know we bring it up a lot, but Ico.
Yep.
That's one that I mean, that's got a lot of critical love and has really kind of come into its own. And everybody knows about it, or excuse me, gamers know about it.
Yeah.
But I think that's a game that really non-gamers would really embrace.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I can see that being up there with like Journey.
Yeah.
You know, because a lot of people who don't generally get into games really dug Journey.
It kind of depends on who this question is focusing on. Are you talking about things that you're? We need a name for the people that I was talking about in the last question. They're not casual gamers, but they're like mid-range games. They don't keep up with gaming news.
Sure.
They're still playing games on an Xbox. They're not playing, you know, Peggle on their phone. They're playing games with a controller, but they don't keep track of. They don't know who Tim Schafer is.
Just
kind of
mid-tier
thing.
gamers.
Right.
Yeah.
Because if it's stuff that those folks have never heard of, basically you could just go down any list of indie games and you probably they've missed out on a lot of those.
Anything by Double Fine.
Yeah.
You know, Psychonauts is one of the big, you know, underappreciated, very appreciated but underselling titles.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we were just talking about some old. The thing is that if you get back to the PS2 era, there's definitely shit in there that nobody's ever heard of because these people were not gamers at that point. This was, you know, more than 10 years ago when PS2 was still a thing. Trying to think of games that were really, really fascinating.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff, you know, like late 90s PC games that really just kind of came and went and nobody noticed them. I really liked Sanitarium.
Yeah?
You remember that?
Sort of. I don't think I ever played it, though.
Yeah.
You always talk about, you know, Blair Witch, Rust and Parr, right?
Yeah.
That I don't know. I mean, most people that I know haven't played that.
Yeah, the Blair Witch games were... I didn't play... There were 3 of them again, and I only played the first one because I heard the second 2 weren't as good. I never got around to trying them out myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's one that's, you know, just...
Yeah, System Shock 2.
System Shock 2.
People never got...
Definitely a cult hit.
Yeah. I mean, anything that, like, well, there's all that stuff that Looking Glass put together back in the old days, like Terra Nova and the original Thief and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That people probably haven't gotten a chance to play. Yeah. I don't know.
Well, that's a pretty good list.
Yeah, I think we'll go with that. I mean, there's plenty of stuff out there. The thing is that nowadays, gaming news has become so saturated with covering anything.
Yeah.
That, like, they had that story last week where Kotaku was like, "We love this He-Man game on the iPad."
Right.
That was probably a thing that none of us would have heard about, but then like fucking Kotaku is covering it.
Oh,
so.
Tony's playing it like crazy.
Yeah?
He loves it. Of course, he's a He-Man whore.
Yeah. But nowadays, you know, like there was a time when something like Papers, Please probably would have slipped under the radar because it was a little indie thing. But now the indie games have so much light on them that it's hard. I mean, maybe go back to, I know one, Trash Panic.
I have no idea what that is.
Trash Panic is badass. I think that's the name of it. It was a PlayStation 3 game where you had this giant trash can, and then you get these things that would move across, like this thing that you had to throw away, like pianos and golf balls and stuff like this, and you'd throw them into the trash can, and you could you would get ones that would be flammable, and then you would throw those down onto this trash pile that you made, and it would set the pile on fire, and then you could put the lid on the can to heat up the fire, and it was about trying to shove as much trash in this trash can. It sounds
so stupid.
It's really fun. It's like super, super, super fun. There's plenty of stuff on the PSN that came out. I mean, like I wonder how Bastion did. Like I love Bastion, but did it sell super well?
Bastion was incredible.
A lot of that Summer of Arcade stuff. Like, did Shadow Complex sell super well? Is that even a thing that everybody knows about?
Guacamelee.
Guacamelee was so good, so good.
DLC coming up soon.
I think it's already out.
Oh, is it?
I think it's just skins.
Oh, is that all?
I think it's just outfits. Yeah.
Oh.
I thought they had like a...
Wah-wah.
Well, maybe. I don't know. If it's story DLC, I don't know. I beat that game twice in a row. I don't know if I need to go back and play it ever again. All right. Our next question is from Declan. Declan says, "Hi, Jeff and Jason.
Hi.
Jeff, could you please make another Dark Souls tutorial video, perhaps more advanced? I don't know, maybe. Additionally, have you / the others considered doing one-off tutorials for games during the lighter times of the year?" He's got a second question, but I actually have been considering this because I was considering making another Dark Souls tutorial, and then I was considering like maybe having a feature where we take requests from people, like if there's a game that you want some starting tutorialization for that you feel needs more tutorialization.
Yeah,
I'm kind of interested in doing that, like helping people to play games. So I don't know, maybe you guys chime in the comments to see if you have any interest in that.
Yeah, I think that's cool.
Secondly, you guys no doubt hear the ending / twist to certain games before you get to finish or even start them. Are there any ending / twists that still had an impact on you, even though you already knew what was going to happen? Are there any endings / twists you really absolutely wished you hadn't heard until experiencing it for yourself? I just finished BioShock Infinite, and the reveals were fantastic. Also, the twist of KOTOR 1 is still amazing. Keep up the great work. Rage on. Cheers, Declan.
I can't really think of anything right now. I'm sure there's something, but I can't really think of anything that's been spoiled for me as far as endings or twists.
Yeah.
The one that I still enjoy, in fact, go back. I recently went back and watched the ending to The Last of Us.
Oh, yeah?
Again. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, man, that's good.
Like, the ending of The Last of Us, and we're not going to talk spoilers for this one.
Right.
The ending of The Last of Us, I feel like anybody who wants to make a cinematic video game needs to watch that last scene and count the beats before it just cuts to black right at the end.
Yeah.
It was just the right amount of time, just like, boom, just enough to get you right in the gut.
Yeah.
And you're just like, oh.
It's like the ending of Inception.
Yes.
You know?
Yep. I had part of the ending to BioShock Infinite spoiled for me.
Okay.
And it was about Booker's identity.
Yeah.
And how it relates to that universe. A fan... And this guy has apologized profusely.
Sure.
We made a speculation or something on one of our videos, and then he was like, "Oh, that's totally what happened," or I had said something, and it was very vague, but it was enough in my mind to put it together and go, "Ah, shit! Now I know." Now, of course, like the rest of the ending of BioShock, I didn't know any of that, so it was still like dramatic as fuck when I got to it. As far as games with really good endings. We've talked about this before. It's hard to stick that stuff a lot of times. A lot of games miss the landing. You know?
A lot of games don't even bother. It's like, okay, it's over. Congratulations.
Right. A winner is you.
Yeah.
Even though, twists before things that had an impact before you already knew they were going to happen. I managed to avoid that. Like a lot of times, I feel like everybody knows that I hate spoilers, but a lot of times the gaming industry is still pretty decent about in the first week to month that a game is out. Kind of, we all keep our mouths shut, or put big spoiler warnings out there so that people know. So I don't get that many things spoiled, dude. I was just trying to think of games where the endings of the games really stood out. Red Dead. Who boy?
Oh,
Mamacita.
Man. Yeah, that's one of my favorite endings ever, and is one of the reasons why I love that game so much. And I don't mean the ending, although that's good.
Yeah,
but I mean,
the turn.
God damn, that's good.
OG Portal, like Portal 1.
Yeah,
that ending. really, really, really good with the song. The ending to Portal 2 as well. Also very good. Also very good song. Like those two games totally did it. They did it very well. Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot of games out there that do have good endings. I'm trying to think of ones that have like twisty and twisty-turny endings.
I mean, KOTOR's. If you want twisty-turny, KOTOR is
KOTOR
among the best.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, I think that's a good list. I don't know. I was gonna say Metal Gear, but the endings to Metal Gear go on for so long that you got to be all up its ass.
Yeah,
like
you're
me.
just waiting for it to end, and then you just die of old age, and it's still the cutscene's still going.
Shut up, Jason. Shut your fucking mouth. All right, this next one's from Carl. Carl says, as media goes, video games were the first to get its hooks into me with the Sega Mega Drive, which was followed by TV, film, and then comic books. That's an interesting way to go about it. That being said, I am burnt out. The industry just seems all messed up with shit like early access, closed platforms to the extent that you don't even own your game, to just games being released flat broken. I haven't bought a next-gen console and don't intend to. I'm going to sit this cycle out and see where games end up afterwards. Still love video games, don't get me wrong, but goddamn, things got to change. How do you guys feel about the industry? Have you been this burned out over video games or any other media before? Respect to the dojo, Carl. A lot of PSs this week. P.S. I am still not convinced by the Oculus Rift. Just seems to make you look as stupid as Wii controls do, or Robin Williams in Toy. I'm waiting for thought tech like you see in Batman Beyond or The Matrix without the spike through your head. Well, hey, Carl, I got news for you. Like, the Oculus Rift, you can buy it right now. Spikes in your brain, you can't buy right now. Because if you could, I already would have. He would have.
It's like, I can put Steam in my brain?
You mean I could have all my Steam library? I would just be at the bar every weekend, just like sitting there going, like, Jeff, you're hearing what I'm saying to you? No, man, I'm beating
BioShock
again. Yeah.
Yeah,
do you feel like it's that dire as he's saying? Does it seem like that?
No, but I get where he's coming from. I mean, that's really a personal position. You know, that depends on how much exposure he's had, how much he follows it. I get it.
Yeah.
Because lately, I haven't been playing shit.
Yeah.
You know, I'll play stuff for the dojo, and that's it. I mean, you sent the PlayStation 4 home with me,
yeah,
and it sat there in my office for a month.
Yep,
and I didn't even take it out of the bag.
Yeah,
because I just you know I wanted to plug it in and check it out, but then I thought I got other stuff to do. I should be doing this and this and this. You know. That said, the game industry is so broad. You're gonna find something. Like and maybe you're just tired of games. That's fine. Take a break.
Yeah, it happens.
Take a break. But I really do think that if you like video games, there is something for you. You're going to find something. If you look hard enough, it could be some obscure, artsy, like Antechamber, you know, or Gone Home or something
Stanley
like that.
Parable, yeah.
Yeah, or it could be DLC for Sleeping Dogs. You know, there's really something for everyone. Now, a lot of it is becoming more homogenized and everything. And yeah, there's a lot of bullshit to deal with now.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like back in the old days where you give them your $50, and you've got your game, and that's what your game is, and you play that for 6 months.
I kind of disagree with that a little bit. I mean, like, and I say that because you've got games like Diablo 3 that you're playing, or stuff like Path of Exile, where if I didn't have anything else to do, I could dump 6 months into Diablo.
Well, I'm talking about all of the, alluding to what Carl was talking about, all of the tertiary stuff that gets in the way. And a lot of that gets in the way with Diablo or Path of Exile. You can't, things are much more complicated now.
Sure.
You can't just go buy a game and that's your game. You know, now with like Diablo, you got to have an online connection. There are patches to download.
Sure.
There's a lot of extraneous stuff to deal with.
Okay.
So things keep getting more and more complicated.
Yeah. I mean, I look on that as a good thing, and I think that
oh, it's opened up a much bigger world.
Well, I kind of look at it as that there's always where there is a need, the industry will provide, right?
Sure.
So you're starting to see these old monolithic companies are starting to become very difficult for them to do anything or make any real innovative moves where they're just putting out the same thing over and over again, right? But last year and the year before and the year before, we are seeing the rise of a new crop of independent game developers that are doing things that we've never seen before.
Yeah.
The things that these big companies used to do.
Or things that we have seen just doing it really well.
Right.
It's like they get it. Like, okay, hey, remember what you like about this game from a while back?
Yeah.
We're going to take that and we're going to distill it down to just the raw essence.
Yeah.
And put that into a game.
And, I mean, I understand, like, especially the early access stuff. We've talked about that before. It's got problems. But it's just going to be a thing. It's like DLC. Like, early access is now going to be a thing. Mojang did it with Minecraft.
Yeah.
He proved that shit will make you a ton of money and that you can get operating capital while you're still developing the game by releasing betas to the public. That we're that interested in these games before they even come out that we're willing to pay money. I mean, Wasteland 2 is $60 and it's early access.
Wow.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't know how they're doing. I know that I'm not quite ready to pull the trigger on a beta, but all the problems that you're describing with a place like EA or whatever or the monolithic game corporations, yeah. And what's going to happen is I feel like those companies are either going to eventually get their shit together or they're going to start crumbling. You're going to start see them making less and less money as people are shoving more. If you can buy 3 really innovative indie games for $60 or you can buy one, the new Call of Duty, same as the last 6 Call of Duties for $60. I'd rather own Brothers Guacamelee and Gone Home than Call of Duty Ghosts, honestly.
Absolutely.
So I think that if you just put your eyes to the place where the new stuff is happening, that there's still plenty going on.
All of the innovation is in independent games right now. Most of it.
There's some stuff that it's hard to do without a giant game studio to do. You know, like I don't think that something on the scale of say like a Mass Effect or GTA 5 could ever come out of a small studio. You just have to, be a little wary. And as far as burnout goes, we've talked about this before. Take some time off.
Yeah.
Take 6 months and go read books. I used to do that all the time.
Gaming will still be there.
Yeah.
It's not the early to mid 80s where it's not going to be there for a while.
And you know what? It's actually incredibly, like, if you are burned out, once again, I don't know about you, Jason, but I always go for the silver lining, right? Gaming burnout is awesome because what that means is that you get to leave gaming for like 8 months to a year
and then come back to a treasure trove.
Right, because when you come back, all you got to do is skim the top 1% of everything that came out in the last 8 months, and you've got some of the best games you've probably ever played in your life.
And you don't have to sort through all the dross.
Yeah. All right, we got 2 more emails. This next one is from Leonardo, and he says, "Hello, Rage Select crew. I recently made a leap from console gaming by purchasing a high-end PC. I decided to do this after PlayStation Now was announced, the Steambox prototypes were revealed, and the fact that the new consoles, despite their successes at launch, can be easily compared to a middle-of-the-road gaming PC. All this also led me to ponder whether consoles are moving to a more unified system like PC and Steam. My question is, will the next generation, in 8 years or so, see the death of consoles? With game PCs becoming cheaper and more accessible, will people make the transition, or will it be the same as past console launches? Thank you for answering my question. Best of luck in 2014. Leonardo from Houston." So, what do you think?
I think there's a lot riding on the Steam box.
Yeah?
And its success. I think what happens in 8 years is going to depend on how, partially, of course, on how successful the Steam box is. Mm-hmm. Because if you start doing everything through, just some sort of proxy, I guess you could say,
mm-hmm.
Then that'll definitely kind of shift the tide. And you might start seeing a kind of a homogenization where the device that you have at home doesn't really matter.
Yep.
It's what's going on in the cloud.
Yeah, the Gaikai PlayStation Now on live kind of off-site processing. Right. I think that it's an interesting situation that we have now because previously console developers were able to get you to buy their console with game exclusivity, right? You know, if you want to play Halo, you need to buy an Xbox.
Which there was a surprising amount on this generation.
Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of it had to do with the architecture.
Yeah.
And I think that we're probably going to see a shift in this next generation because the PS4 and the Xbox One are both PCs. That you're going to see. We've already seen way more console games making their way onto the PC.
Yeah.
It used to be very segregated.
Rarely.
Yeah.
Very rarely.
Whereas now, if they're all being built on the same architecture the PC already uses, you're going to see that stuff going back and forth. So I'd be willing to bet that you're not going to see the death of consoles as long as I think that Microsoft and Sony are savvy enough to understand that, like,
you'll see a very different console.
Yeah, you'll probably see like a streaming box, like an on-live Gaikai, you know, kind of thing. But you know, as long as Microsoft is able to hold Halo, and as long as Halo is able to have fans, they're not going to let you put Halo on the PC.
Yeah,
that it's going to be. It's perfectly, you know, we know that Xbox 360 games could be ported to the PC. They were done all the time, right? Yet Gears of War, you could only play that shit on the Xbox 360, and there are plenty of people who are willing to shell out the money for that just to play those games. Now, I think that if it becomes more of a streaming thing, and they're trying to sell you on exclusives, that you could probably cut the price of that stuff down significantly. Like if you're selling somebody a streaming box, this is the Microsoft streaming box. They could sell that to you for like $100.
Sure.
And they probably manufacture it for like 10 or something like that. So they're making a profit. More people are probably going to buy it. And then you could still have a platform that's specific to that. I don't know. I don't see it converging back into the PC because all the bullshit with Windows 8 and all the bullshit with Windows and stuff, like, I gotta say, man, like, okay, you know, the Xbox One has, I don't care for the interface a lot, but for a lot of people, that's what they want. They want a stripped down, easy to use interface. You know, I don't have to worry about getting fucking spyware on my PS4.
Right.
I don't have to worry about, you know, does this
knock on wood
app need an update? Is this driver up to date? I mean, I have an NVIDIA card, and the NVIDIA experience keeps telling me, like, hey, we got this new driver that's eking out another 2% of frame rate in Arma, and it's doing these graphical upgrades for Batman.
Specific. Right.
Yeah, and so you got to update. You got to stay on top of that shit, whereas there is something to be said about selling a consumer a product where they don't need to know anything to make it run.
Yeah. It works right out of the box.
Right. And once again, those middle-tier people that we're talking about, a lot of them, they don't want to dick around with, well, I bought Tomb Raider on my PC and I launched it, and suddenly the screen is fucked up and there's all this artifacting.
Yeah.
So I do a search, and then that's a forum, and then they're like, well, you need to reseat the card and blah, blah, blah.
That's why I got out of PC gaming.
Yeah.
Because I got sick of that.
Yep.
And I got sick of spending, okay, well, I need a new video card that's going to cost just as much as a new Xbox console.
Look at the Steam boxes.
Yeah.
They start at $500. They start at the cost of the most expensive console right now, and they go up to this one that's this nebulous. It's basically just a PC that has Steam OS on it, and it's like it's $6,000.
Yeah,
the gall, Jason, the gall.
Yeah,
$6,000 is a rendering farm for fucking Pixar movies.
Yeah,
what you know. This Linux Steam OS with a couple hundred games on it. What fucking video game needs a $6,000 PC?
You're not running the Ender's Game simulation,
right? Even the Ender's Game simulation, I could probably do that on like a $2,500 PC. Like shit, man. And I think that as long as the PC world is, and it is, hostile towards people who aren't willing to put in the effort to really get into it, you're still going to have a lot of people that are just like, I just want to load up my Xbox, I want to launch Netflix, I want to watch Netflix. And like, well, you can get, and I know because I've been playing old games on Steam on my PC, they look so much better on the PC.
Oh, yeah.
But a lot of people, they don't care. They'd rather just put that shit in and start it up and boom, you're good to go.
Precisely.
So I think that as long as that attitude persists, the parity in hardware is probably going to end up being meaningless because you're going to have more, and I think you've already seen this in the last generation. For a lot of people, it's more about brand loyalty than it is about what's even in that box.
Right.
When I went to both the PlayStation and the Xbox launches, you have people there, and they're like, I had a PlayStation 3. I like my PlayStation 3. I'm going to buy a PlayStation 4.
Right.
It doesn't matter what's in there. It doesn't matter what it does. I mean, you look at the sell-through numbers for the Xbox One when there were people out there. I know there were people who never got the retraction messages from Microsoft that it wasn't always going to have to be online and that you were going to get to own your games and blah, 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 blah. There were people out there who just bought it because they had an Xbox 360. They like their Xbox. They want the new Xbox.
They probably bought it, had no idea that there was ever any sort of always online thing or anything like that.
Yeah. A lot of times, I mean, once again, we go back to that thing of whether you're out there reading Kotaku and Joystick and Giant Bomb and stuff like that. Rage Select, the juggernauts of the internet, you know, all the top four.
Gotta get all the big ones.
The big four. That people who do that, and then you've got people who just watch the commercials.
Right.
And they go, oh, shit, there's a new Xbox. Let's go get that new Xbox.
Mm-hmm.
I hear there's a pachinko game on there that I really want to play.
Right.
An $11 pachinko game that I'm really into. All right, and we got one more email. And this last email is from the loneliest barista. Dear Jeff and Jason, I am a college student who has a little brother in middle school. I need to scare the hell out of him because middle schoolers are all little assholes.
Yes.
Okay. I have chosen to have him play Dead Space. Should I have him start in the beginning, or should I drop him into the scariest part I can find? The loneliest barista, hyphenator 437. I made this question because it's just about trolling children.
Yes.
I think that's awesome.
Yes. You know, you have to start at the beginning. Because Dead Space is one of those that's done well. It's done right as far as the scares go. Dead Space 1 and 2, especially start off with Dead Space 1. Start off at the beginning because there's a mystery as to what's going on, and the way that they roll out the monsters is very important.
Yes,
you just throw it in the middle of it. There's no context. There's no quiet to make the loud, scary parts loud and scary.
Yeah.
So you definitely have to let him get into it.
But if you're looking to scare the shit out of somebody, I'd say, like, has he played Slender the Arrival?
Yeah.
Like, get him playing Slender the Arrival, get yourself a Slender Man costume, make him play it in the dark with headphones on, and then just stand behind him in your Slender Man costume until he turns around.
It doesn't have to stop with the game. Make it an experience. And don't stop until that punk ass has shit his pants.
Oh, no, you probably end up having to clean up the shit his pants.
No. He who shat it has to wipe it up. That's how it works.
Is that it?
Yep.
I've never run across the rules of shitting your pants.
That's the rule.
But I agree with Jason. Start at the beginning. There's a narrative that's much more dreadful than just like, bah. If you're looking for just like, bah, then SCP Containment Breach, Slender the Arrival. There's other games that are much more just like one concept and go boom scary.
Or show him those videos where it's like, oh, stare at this field of flowers, this serene meadow, and then do that.
Yeah. I hate those fucking videos. Every so often something will come up on the internet, and I'm like, this is one of those. I'll like turn down.
I haven't
the
seen one in a while.
I know. They were all the rage there for a little while.
I think it's time for one of them to make a comeback.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe right now in this podcast right here.
Yeah. It doesn't really work on an audio podcast.
No, yeah,
they need the Satan face.
On a dojo.
Yeah. I don't want to do that to people.
I do.
I hate that shit, man. I hate it. I do like watching the reaction videos, though. And that's all the questions that we have for this week. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We've got... we're getting back into it. We've got some good stuff coming up next week, so stay tuned. If you would like to send us an email, the email address is mail@rageselect.com. That is mail@rageselect.com. Do not send your questions to the admin. I will not read them on the air. I will not. So before we go, Jason, you have any closing thoughts?
No.
No?
No.
All right. See you later, everybody.